Hi, Rigsters here, back with another Forza Horizon 5 A to Z Street series on the next manufacturer in the game in manufacturer alphabetical order, the 1973 Alpine A110 1600S. So, if you haven't seen the series before, long story short, what you do is I pretty much tune the car from stock, which in this case is Class C, to one class above, and take it on a short downarco sprint, blab about it for a bit, and show you a little bit of tuning as well. And maybe some random stupid facts or unusual things as well. So, with that out of the way, let's get started. So, this is the first Alpine in the game that I am going to cover. So I'm going to first start off with the brakes and the usual. I did originally tune this for rally, but this is now going to be tuned for sprint B class. So there's going to be a lot of B classes I've noticed as I started doing this series. There's only one weight reduction option, which is race, which is fine. It's a really light car, just like in real life. And this car was actually used in rallying. The unusual thing is this is one of the few cars in this series that has rear engine rear wheel drive. Pretty much meaning the engine's in the rear and the driven wheels are in the rear. The only modern car that even remotely is close to doing that's still being made to this day, is the Porsche 911 series. But their engine is not directly in the rear. They're more towards the middle rear now, but they still have it hanging out near the back, which is kind of comical if you think about it. But it's a very successful design. This particular one is not like a Porsche 911. It is directly near the rear of the vehicle. So you're much safer in rear end collisions. This is a traffic safety tip. So we're going to put on sport tire compound because I want to raise the power a little bit potentially. And do max tire width for the rear. And for the front, we'll do max front as well. Now, normally I would put semi-slicks on these cars, but since I'm doing one class above, that's not always possible. But what is possible is putting on this exhaust. Yeah. And maybe the pistons. Oh, that's going to cut it close, but yes. More power is always good in this case. Ooh, I can't really reduce the weight. Can I increase the valves? No. How about ignition? No. Well, I already did exhaust. Camshafts, I highly doubt. No, I'm definitely not going to. Camshafts is the most expensive upgrade you can do for parts per performance-wise in Forza series. So, we're just going to have to reduce the weight with the flywheel. We can take off 5 pounds instead of 9. Right there. And let's see how much this will cost. Now, some of these upgrades, of course, I have bought in the past, so they are free. Thankfully, that you remember that for every single 400 plus car in the games, because some of them I have fiddled with in the past or recently. So this is not always going to be accurate for the basket items. So potentially this is about another 25 to 30,000 credit build. So we go from 576 to 1,408, 164 horsepower, and about 1.5 lateral G. With that, we'll go to the sprint race and go from there. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to increase the tire PSI to 28 for the rear and 25 for the front. For gearing, yeah, it's going to need to at least be like 310 maybe. Yeah, maybe 320, probably do better. There we go, that's better. Alignment, not going to touch. Roll bar's not going to touch. Springs, yeah, it's fine where it's at. It's pretty low, but it's not too low. I usually don't touch the springs and dampening when I do these because, one, I haven't driven them in this configuration, and two, in 5, if it's not too crazy of a build, it's not uncompetitive or a monster to control typically, especially on asphalt, but that's different on off-roading and other situations. Differential, I'm not going to even touch. I'm just touching the gearbox. Alright, let's get started. So, the Alpine Renault. This car was a sensation when it was new for France. It's also a really cool car. I mean, it's not very widely known outside of Europe, at least in the States. And this is what the interior looks like without the wheel. I mean, look at that. It's a diesel engine, only 6 revs? No, I'm just kidding. That's actually in terms of thousands per revolution. Cars back in the 60s to about the late 70s, even in Europe, would have like the gauge per times 1,000. Not the other way around. And also that big speedometer towards the middle right, that's in kilometers. I'm not actually going 200 miles an hour for my imperial measurement trends. That's in kilometers. Now let's hear that inline 4 sing. Yeah, that's what it sounds like with the race exhaust. Pretty cool. I don't expect this to really win, per se, because it is definitely a slow car in terms of top speed. But it's definitely good handling. I mean, this thing is so lightweight that it doesn't really need a whole lot of power to get moving. And once it's at speed, it handles kind of decent. I can tell it struggles a little bit, but it's not bad. It's not like uncontrollable mess. If you tune this wrong though, this will snap oversteer like crazy. But that's just the way Forza hits. As I can see even there, it's starting to oversteer a little bit. Oh. See if I can get a good time here. And I like the fact that these cars drive differently, even though I've done so far, I think 3 now? 3 B-Class cars? They drive differently, even if they're the same drive type, which is good. That's a sign of a good game, when they don't drive exactly the same all the time. That would kind of suck. And also be lame. Time is 2:26.42. Definitely slower than the Acuras, which I'll put up here. But it's not necessarily terrible either. But I definitely would need to tune this car some more. And also keep in mind that was the very first time I've driven it in that configuration ever. So that's actually not bad, but could be better. This car is very nice looking too. I really like the look of the original Alpine. And Alpine was Renault's, and still is Renault's, race car or experimental division. It made some pretty interesting, funky cars. Not necessarily always to production. This was one of them, but it's really neat to see, and I love the blue on it. I mean, I am biased towards the color blue on most cars. And that's pretty much it for this one. If you want to support the channel, I do have a Ko-Fi page if you wish to donate there. This is in the description box below. And I hope you enjoyed this video and series of Forza Horizon 5 A to Z Street. This is Rigstersjourney, signing off.